welcome. Happy Friday to you. So I'd like to let you know about a book that I read yesterday. It's called Body Therapy. It's by William S. Lee, Leigh, and this is one of the most important books I've ever read. So I highly endorse it, and it's William Lee, who calls himself Dub, studied under Ida Rolf and under Moshe Feldenkrais, and then later under Tenno Uye Roshi, who was a Zen teacher in Hawaii. And I found this book to be so excellent on so many levels. Briefly, one of the reasons is that it helps. If you read this book, it will help you will better understand what on earth we're doing in these meetings. Because he, I did not have the privilege of studying directly under Ida Rolf or Moshe Feldenkrais or Tenno Uye Roshi, but and I'd never even heard of Tenno Uye Roshi before reading this book. It's called Body Therapy. It might be backwards for you too, but maybe you can read it. It's Body Therapy, all one word. And the author is William S. Lee, Leigh. It's a pretty short read. It's 136 pages. I read it in one day. I want to just briefly explain. So he studied with these teachers and many others. He studied with many of the, he was alive during the lifetimes of many of these teachers, and studied with an incredible number of teachers, but these were his three primary influences. And he was able to, we could say, think outside the box, because he wasn't boxed into just Rolfing or just Feldenkrais work or just energy work. He had this broad palette to draw from. And I found this to be very inspiring, because that's what I do as well. Even though, like I said, I'm not to compare myself with him. He's at another level, but the really, really excellent. I highly encourage people to pick this up and read it. And I think it will give you inspiration, and it will help you to understand what it is that's possible, and also what we're doing in these meetings. And there's so much in this book that's so good. But I want to read to you just a few little excerpts. These are some quotes from Moshe Feldenkrais that I think will help to explain some things, the connection, and how it is that through awareness we can change so many things. He says, so this was a talk that he had given to the Copenhagen Congress of Functional Movement and Relaxation in the 1970s. He says, to put this point more clearly, I contend that a brain without motor functions could not think, or at least that the continuity of mental functions is assured by corresponding motor functions. By the way, most of this book isn't that heavy. It's his writing is very easy. This is Moshe speaking. Let me substantiate this point by some striking examples. It takes us longer to think the number from 20 to 30 than from 1 to 10. though the numerical intervals are the same from 1 to 10 and 20 to 30. The difference lies in the fact that the time intervals are proportional to the time needed to utter the corresponding numbers aloud. This suggests that we actually mobilize the brain mechanism of the vocal apparatus. In counting objects, we find in general the linkage of the motor parts of vision and verbalization, keeping down the speed of thought to the rate of the motor elements. Most people cannot think clearly without mobilizing the motor function of the brain enough to become aware of the word patterns representing the thought. These examples indicate that an improvement in speed and clarity of thought may be obtained by reducing the extent of movement and smoothing the performance of the muscular controls. So he's specifically talking about hopefully that's clear, the thinking and movement. Even though we may be thinking silently, inwardly we're subtly utilizing the motor apparatus in order to perform the thinking, even if it's something as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 21, 22, 23, etc. And I won't read more of that right now, but it's also clear, both, I think he also describes it, but also in our own direct experience, should we choose to observe our own direct experience, that these interconnections are also to be found in all aspects of our experience. So it's not just thinking and the motor apparatus, but it's also our emotions. As I think I point out, how do you know that you're feeling something? The feeling is happening through some sort of it's a somatic experience. It's something that we actually have. In order to feel it, it has to be in something that we are doing in the body, even if it's very subtle. So the thing that links all of it together, the thinking, the imagining, the feeling, and of course our ability to act in an efficient way in this world, in a pain-free way, in a pleasurable way, in a way that's successful, where success is determined by we have a clear desire and we're able to achieve that. All of that is mediated actually by this somatic experience. And if we have what Moshe would call parasitic actions, which is to say that we want to think something, feel something, do something, imagine something, but we have some other actions somatically that are counter to that, then we're not efficient. And the degree of inefficiency can oftentimes be such that inefficiency overpowers our ability to achieve our desired outcome, even to the extent that we can't even imagine that or take even the initial action, because we're defeated before we even begin. Because, to put it in Thomas Hanna's terms, if you just break it down to something really simple like red light, green light. Okay, so red light, reflex in Thomas Hanna's terminology means a contraction through the front side of the body. So this is that, we're born in this world, and that's actually the first. I think that's the first. It's one of the first things that we're able to do. It's inborn. We don't. Everything else comes later. We learn to do everything else. One of the very first things that we come into this world with is this ability to contract, because babies, infants have this, we could say, fear of falling. So there's an apprehension that's inbuilt, and that's the red light reflex, which is contract through the front side to protect the vital organs in the front side of the body, which are vulnerable. And so if we have this red light reflex, which is chronic, we've lost our ability, or not our ability inherently, but we've lost. See, I'm just demonstrating it and I get trapped in it. We forget all about what we're even doing. We become numb to that. So then that red light reflex is saying stop. But then in life, we're told go. So if you're like this, and then, but you're being told you've got to go, you've got to achieve, you've got to get out there, you've got to earn some money, you've got to take care of this. Otherwise you're going to fail, you're going to starve, you're going to be out on the streets. You got to, then what do? Well, you utilize this next reflex, which Thomas Hanna calls the green light reflex, which counters the red light reflex, sort of. Compensates. It doesn't counter, it compensates. So now you've got both going on at the same time. So tension through the front side, tension through the back side. Now, to an untrained eye, let's say, most people can't tell the difference between somebody who's inhibiting both red light and green light versus somebody who's activating both red light and green light, because both appear somewhat to be vertical. But when we become aware and trained, we can start to recognize both somatically within ourselves and visually within others, to recognize the difference. And it's a big difference. Somatically, you can sense the big difference, because somatically, when there's an inhibition of both red light and green light, now there's freedom. And that freedom means I am free to move in any direction. So to move physically, mentally, emotionally, I can move. I have the freedom to move in any which way because I'm balanced, aligned with the field of gravity, both physically and energetically, emotionally. So if we just consider energetic as more of a broader context to understand, then we can understand that I'm in this energetic field. And if I'm not aligned with that, then I'm not free to move in any direction at any time. My movements are predetermined and severely limited. And that's why I'm saying if those reflexes, if that red light reflex is chronically activated, then I'm not able to move forward with the same freedom, because the only way for me to move forward is first to also activate the green light reflex, and then in a very limited, rigid way, I can move forward. But that's exhausting, as well as being rigid, which leads to being more prone to accidents, injury, strain. So what we're interested in here, what I'm interested in, long introduction today, but you can tell I found this book to be very, very inspirational, is that the idea here is that when we inhibit all of those reflexes or those learned habits, now we're in alignment with gravity, which means that we have the freedom to move in any direction. And we're not rigid. We're not fragile. We're not brittle. So we could say resilient, responsive. We have the capacity to act in a clear way. And we immediately receive the feedback in a positive way, rather than when we're like this, and then we receive that feedback of this isn't the right way. This isn't working out well. What happens is we just give up. We become frustrated. We don't have that resilience because we had put everything into that and we didn't have the ability to come back. Whereas when we start from a neutral, aligned place, aligned with gravity, aligned energetically, so that there's a poise, there's a balance, there's an ease, and we can move in any direction. And again, I'm talking physical movement, mental movement, because as I was reading it from that quote, we can see that there's a connection between all of those spheres of activity: mental activity, emotional activity, physical activity, the imaginative realm. All of those are connected, and they're connected through the somatic field, which is what's giving us the most immediate feedback. So hopefully that's a helpful context. So with that in mind, let's choose a posture. And if possible, let it be an upright posture. And if that's not appropriate, then it's not. So don't force it. Remember that wherever you are, whatever you are capable of actually being present to is what you're going to get the most benefit from. And so how can you know if you can be present to it? Well, you can know that you're present if you're able to have some sense of that poise, of that balance, of that alignment, meaning that you have the ability to respond rather than react. That if somebody came and they touched you lightly, that you would not just fall over. That you have the ability, the resiliency that allows you to absorb and respond rather than react and collapse. And what that and so somebody coming and touching you lightly, okay, that's one way in which there's some kind of interaction that you want to be able to be stable enough to be able to absorb and respond to rather than react. Also, what we could call internal stimulus. So any content that arises from what was previously the unconscious, but now becoming conscious. So thoughts, sensations, images, feelings. Similarly, we want to be able to be present to those, which means that if we're exerting so much effort, strain just to be in this posture, that we're not able to breathe, we're not able to be present to the experience, but rather we're just bearing it, then what happens if something arises in your field of awareness, if some experience surfaces, it can topple you, or it can batter you, or shatter you, none of which sounds very good. So this is why I say be gentle. Be gentle. So let's close the eyes. And with the eyes closed, We're going to do some eye movement. So this will be interesting. The eyes are closed and we're going to move the eyes. And first of all, bring your awareness to your right eye. Become aware of the right eyeball. So be aware of the shape of the eyeball. So it has a three-dimensional shape. There's some portion of the eyeball that is visible, of course not presently because the eyelids are closed, but when the eyelids are open, then part of the eye is visible, but there's also a significant part of the eyeball that is not visible because it's inside the head, but you can be aware of that entire eyeball. So we're aware of the right eyeball and be aware also at the same time of the back of the head. So whatever that means to you, just be aware of the back of the head. So you're aware of the right eyeball and you're aware of the back of the head. Now, remaining to the best of your ability aware of the back of the head and the right eyeball, move the right eyeball to the right as if we're looking to the right, as far to the right as you can do without undue strain. And notice the back of the head. Let the back of the head be relaxed. And then let the eyeball come to forward. So the eyes are closed, the eyelids are closed, and we're moving the eye with the eyelid closed. So you're aware of your right eye and you're aware of the back of your head. And presently, the right eye is just neutral, as if it's looking forward. And let's repeat that several times. So you're moving the eye to the right eye to the right, and you're aware of the back of the head and letting the back of the head be relaxed. And then letting the eye come forward. And repeat that several more times. And then let go, just let that whole thing go. The eyes are still closed. All right, now again, with the right eyeball, you're going to move the right eyeball to the left. So the eyelid is closed, the eyeball is moving to the left as if you were looking at the bridge of your nose. And you're letting the back of the head relax, and then you're letting the eyeball come forward. And do that several more times. So the eyeball moves to the left and then relaxes to neutral, and the back of the head remains as relaxed as possible throughout. Do that one more time, and then let it go. Now, become aware of your tongue. See if you can be aware of your tongue as you are also aware of the right eye. And let's again move the right eye to the right and let the tongue be as relaxed as possible. And then let the eye come to center while the tongue remains relaxed. And do that several more times so that your goal is to let the tongue remain relaxed as you move the eye to the right and then to center. And then let that go. And then you've probably guessed what we're going to do next, which is we're going to repeat the same exercise, but with the eye moving to the left. So letting the tongue remain relaxed as you turn the eye to the left and then to center, and repeat that several times. And then let that go. Just notice your face. Notice the difference between the right side and the left side. And let's stay with the right eye, and let's move the right eye now with the eyelid still closed. We're going to move the eyeball up and then to center. And we're going to repeat that several times, moving the eyeball up and then to center. And as you do, let the tongue and the back of the head remain relaxed. So be aware of both the tongue and the back of the head as you move the eyeball up and to center. And then let that go. And then let's do the same, moving the eye down and to center. So you're going to be moving the eye down and then to center many times as you let the tongue and the back of the head remain relaxed. And then let that go. So now again, be aware of the right side of your face and the left side of your face and notice the difference. There should be probably a difference. You probably notice that the right side of your face is well, we'll just say different, has a different, you have a different awareness of the right side than you do the left side. So let's explore the left side, the left eye. And we'll do the same basic set of explorations on the left. However, let's try something. Let's try doing the movements just in our imagination without actually moving the eye. So imagine that you're moving the eye to the left and to center. As you let the back of the head remain relaxed. And then imagine that you're moving the eye to the right and then to center. many times as you relax the back of the head. And then we could just combine some of these things. You could imagine that you're moving the eye all the way left and all the way right many times as you relax the back of the head and the tongue at the same time. And then you can imagine that you're moving the eye up and down as you relax the back of the head and the tongue. And then you can just completely let go on both sides of the face, both the eyes, and notice the two sides. And you can also now imagine, with your eyes still closed, imagine that you're looking off into the distance, far at the horizon. And let the back of your head be relaxed as you're looking far off into the distance, and let it be a very relaxed gaze. So it's completely non-strenuous. You're just letting the eyes relax as they just gaze gently and in a relaxed way far off into the distance. So that even though your eyes are closed, you have a sense that you're looking far off into the distance, and that you can also see into the periphery, both on the right and the left. So your eyes are closed, but you can have a sense that you're able to see this maybe 180 degrees or even maybe more, this field of seeing the fullness of the backs of your eyelids all around. And you have at the same time the awareness of the back of the head, and you're letting the back of the head be relaxed so that you start to become aware of the skull, the entire skull, So you're aware of the eyes in front and the back of the skull and the top of the skull. And there's this, inside the skull, there's this dome. It's like your own IMAX theater. And you can start to be aware of the inside of the skull, the inside of the dome of your skull, and how that dome is poised above the spine. So you have awareness of the eyes and the back of the head and the top of the head and the inside of the dome of the skull and the spine. Particularly, you're aware of the cervical vertebrae, the uppermost vertebrae of the spine. And so you could imagine that you're on, as if you're this tiny little person perched atop the uppermost vertebrae of your spine, and you're looking, maybe you could even imagine you're reclining, you're lying on your back on that uppermost vertebrae, and you're peering up at the dome of your skull, like you might lie on the top of a hill on a clear night to see the stars in the dome of the heavens. So let your skull, the dome of the skull, be balanced atop the spine in such a way that it's light, effortless. And then again, become aware of your eyeballs, and your eyelids are still closed, and you can continue to have the sense that you're gently allowing your gaze to peer out onto the horizon in a relaxed way. So there's no strain, you're just enjoying the distant view at the horizon. And you're aware of the back of the head, and you're letting the back of the head be relaxed. And you're aware of the top of the skull. And you're aware of the uppermost vertebra. And then you're aware of the vertebrae below that. And slowly you can allow yourself to become aware of each of the vertebrae down the back, so that with each vertebrae that you become aware of, you are aware of the structure of your body, your bones, your skeletal structure, and you can become aware of the unnecessary effort that you might be in the habit of making, and you can soften that and let the bones do their job, so that you're just allowing the natural structure of your bones to take the weight of your body. And here's an image that will be helpful to you, which is that our bones like weight. Our bones become stronger when they carry the weight. Our bones are designed to take the weight. And when they take that weight, they become more uplifted, more buoyant. So the more that you allow the bones to take the weight of your body, actually the taller you become. So with each of the vertebrae that you become aware of, release the unnecessary effort, the unnecessary strain, the discomfort, the burden, and let the bones take that weight. And as they do, notice that you effortlessly begin to float a little bit taller. So now there's more space. And in this space, everything that has been held on to in all of that unnecessary tension is free. And so you may notice all various kinds of things. So whatever you notice, just be aware, just be witness, and don't be alarmed or concerned, or don't have any sense that you must do anything or figure anything out or fix it. Whatever thoughts may come or feelings may come or images may come, just allow them. So the more space that you can allow, the more of the unnecessary burden can be released, which means the more you become aware of, which requires more presence to continue to allow the space so that the unnecessary strain and the unnecessary burden can be released. The common mistake is to believe that the measure of success in the short term should be how I feel, but how I feel is an evaluation, a judgment based on my conditioning up to this moment. And by allowing the space and allowing the release of the unnecessary strain and burden, I'm actually relieving myself of those judgments that have kept me stuck in unwanted habits. So a key to success is to just continue to be present and allow the space and be witness to whatever arises without leaping to judgment. Any kind of judgment like this is a bad experience, this is not what should be happening, I'm failing, I'm doing it wrong, and so forth. Just allow the experience. So we've been doing this with our eyes closed because it can be very helpful. But of course, much of the time we have our eyes open, and if this inner experience doesn't translate into our outer experience, then it's only halfway useful. Still useful, but only halfway. And if we want full utility, then we want to be able to access this with our eyes open as well. And so we can begin to move in that direction. So have this awareness of this inner space. And notice that this inner space is really, it's a conceptual inner space, but that the actual space itself is something that you experience somatically. You experience it because you inhibited or have been inhibiting or are inhibiting the habits of contraction, of reaction. And so this so-called inner space is not different from outer space or any space. It's the same space, and we can, in fact, experience this and know this even with our eyes open. So be aware of this space. Be aware of how you have come to be aware of this space, which is to say, through the inhibition of the habits of contraction and reaction, and see that you can remain aware of that space of inhibition of reaction, as I briefly guide you through parts of the body. So I will mention the names of the part of the body, and you can simply be aware of that part of your body and be aware of the space at the same time. And as I name the part of the body and you are aware of that part of the body, whatever you may have associated with that part of the body, whatever judgments or opinions or reactions you may have with that part of the body, may become clearer to you. And if that happens, just continue to remain aware of the space at the same time so that you can just be a witness to whatever those reactions or judgments might be. The top of the head, the left ear, the right ear, the nose, the lips, the chin, the tip of the tongue, the middle of the tongue, the root of the tongue, inside the throat, the front of the throat, the back of the neck, the left shoulder, the left upper arm, the left elbow, left forearm, left wrist, left palm, left thumb, left index finger, left middle finger, left ring finger, left pinky finger, right shoulder, right upper arm, right elbow, right forearm, right wrist, right palm, right thumb, right index finger, right middle finger, right ring finger, right pinky finger. The front of the chest, the left shoulder blade, the right shoulder blade, the upper back, including the spine, the abdomen, the lower back, the pelvis, the left buttock, the left thigh, the left knee, the left lower leg, the left ankle, the left heel, the left toes, the top of the left foot, the sole of the left foot, the right buttock, the right thigh, the right knee, the right lower leg, the right ankle, the right heel, the right toes, the top of the right foot, the sole of the right foot. So now you're aware of this space and you're aware of the entire body. You're aware of the inside of the body. You're aware of the skin. You're aware also of the outside of the body. Notice that this space permeates all that you're aware of, including the inside of the body, the skin, the outside of the body, your thoughts, your feelings and sensations and emotions, your memory and imagination, and so you can allow for this space to liberate the baggage and burden and strain in all of these aspects of your awareness and experience in your life, both inside and outside. So now, remaining aware of this space, also become aware of the face and the forehead and let that be soft. Move your fingers. Relax the tongue. And continuing to remain aware of that space, when you're ready, slowly begin to open the eyes so that you can maintain that awareness of the space and allow your awareness of that space to be present as you slowly open the eyes. So I never know what's going to happen in these meetings. Uh, I I could do with a nap. So if you also could do with a nap, then and you can give yourself that. I'm going to just mute you. Um, then do so. And if not, then just remember to take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be gentle. Be loving. Be loving with yourself at all levels. Remember that your thoughts are also your habits, and those are happening in that space. And if you just see them, if you're witness to them without judgment, without reaction, without condemnation, without all the usual habits, then you're witness to their liberation and your own liberation. So let yourself be gentle, kind, nurturing. Take good care of yourself. If you need to rest and you can give yourself that, then take a rest. Make sure that it's hot where I am, so make sure if you're in a hot place, stay hydrated. Make sure that you're eating well, which doesn't mean being rigid. It just means blessing your food, having the intention of nourishing yourself. Be forgiving, forgive yourself for everything, all your mistakes, and forgive others for all of their mistakes, because it's just more stuff that you don't need to hold on to. So I'm going to end this recording, and then for those who'd like to stay on for the Q&A, we'll do that. And so brace yourself. You don't need to brace yourself, but prepare yourself, because we might hear somebody announcing that the recording is ending.